fourth down, the final play, unless they can stick it in the end zone. Dorsey under pressure, throws it, incomplete. The Buckeyes win. Ezekiel Elliott, and he's got an opening. Elliott off to the races. Can they catch him?
Feature the two backs as receivers, and now a downfield shot at first down for the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State strikes first. Making the judgments again, and there is Smith running free, right to tackle. Ohio State strikes quickly from 45 yards. Pressure comes. Shaw, knock it out, and picks it up. Jack Shaw, coming down the sidelines. Ohio State scoop and score and dagger from 82 yards. Here they come. Heavy pressure. Howard delivers downfield. It's Smith. He's got it. Jeremiah Smith. The 2025 College Football National Champion, Coach Ryan Day, and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Welcome in, Buckeye backers. We are bringing it to you live from Seattle, Washington, to the cornfields of Enid, Ohio. We are the pulse of Buckeye fans across the nation, with Seattle Matt and Buckeye Steve. Here we are again as national champs. It's not going to get old. I'm going to keep saying it. We got a full year, a full off season to say, hey, man, let's tout it. We are the national champs. Buckeye backers are live. Welcome in. Let's get this show started, baby. So we got some news. Do you want to touch on that right away? You want to just get into this?
Get into the breaking news. Let's go.
All right, man. Coordinators have been announced. Some coaches have been announced. Let's just jump on into Hartline from the start. I know you got to take. You want Ohio State to go for the best of the best always, because that's what Ohio State deserves. Is that still your take, man? After this news has been announced, I know we talked about it. Is this the best of the best?
I think it's as good as you're going to get right now. And really, when you're looking at the fact that Ohio State is having to make these types of decisions in late January, early February, you're missing a lot of time that other universities had a chance to go hire their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. So you have to really take that into account when you're talking about this. With that being said, I think this is a pretty wise decision overall in terms of, keeping that core intact. Hartline's obviously been around the university for a while. He has been that offensive coordinator role for a little bit. Now, he did not call plays in 2023. To me, that is going to be the key differentiator with this hire. Is Ryan Day going to take that play calling back? Is he going to hand over the reins to Brian Hartline? I think calling plays on offense is one of the most difficult things you can do in college football. Defense is a little bit easier. There's not as many concepts, not as many things to worry about. With the offensive side of the ball, it's not just knowing and understanding the playbook. It's knowing situations. It's knowing on that 2nd and 5, what's that defense been showing you throughout the first two series. What's a great scheme? It may be a run, it may be a pass, it may be a lot of things. So there's a lot of touch and feel when it comes to calling plays. I'm a huge proponent of your head coach not calling plays, whether on offense or defense. I think game management is absolutely critical once you get to that level. So I really don't want to see Day take those back. I don't mind this hire, but I think who is going to call plays and how that plays out is going to be a big component of this.
See, I'm on the opposite boat. I think this is a great hire. I think this is what we needed to do as Buckeye Nation. This is what Day needed to do. I think he's making this choice because it's the best choice. Sometimes there are guys that need to be promoted from within. Ryan Day was one of those guys. Urban Meyer noticed it from the beginning. Ryan Day's made that mistake before. Kerry Combs, that was a mistake. Hiring that guy that didn't have any experience turned out to be a mistake. He's made it before. He's learned from it. He knows Hartline is obsessive compulsive with success. And he has been. He's shown it. What the problem was before in 2023 was Ryan Day couldn't let go of calling the plays. It was his sweet baby child. Like, I can't get rid of that. I cannot give that away. He was like a mother giving away her baby. And that was what the disconnect was. They also didn't have really, some could argue, the best quarterback in the world, having Honda McCord back there. They had an elite wide receiver, but they just didn't have the pieces to put a great offense together. It was good. It just wasn't great what we're expecting out of Ohio State. So Ryan Day had that chance to have Chip Kelly come in, take over, and allow him to finally see what it's like, to feel what it's like to be the manager of the team, the CEO of the team, rather than trying to play, both fields, like have his cake and eat it too. Like, I want to be CEO and I want to call the plays. Now he's relaxed. He let a guy do it, a guy he trusted. It was like a father figure. He's gone. Now he knows Hartline can do it. Plus, Hartline got a little bit of that mix of the run game. What was Hartline missing? Probably the run game, right? And Kevin Wilson was there before to kind of have that run game backing and knowing what to do as far as blocking schemes in the run game too. So now Hartline's had that mastery from Chip Kelly. And they've realized the other thing about this season that they've realized is they can be a pass first team to open up the run. And that's a whole different level than anything that we've seen from Ohio State in the past. Right? Because they always wanted to be a pound it. Maybe not as much when Ryan Day was the offensive coordinator. I think he talked Herb out of a little bit of that. But man, this has been a run first, then pass. It changed in the postseason this year. It changed with Tennessee. Starting with Tennessee, it was, let's throw the ball deep. Let's get some crossing routes open. Let's spread out this defense, and then we can run it all over them. And you can be tough passing the ball first. And I think that's a lesson that Ryan Day learned this year, this postseason.
I think you hit on it perfectly, is establish the pass in order to run. And this is a contrarian concept to most people probably over the age of 25 who've watched football their entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
You usually think to run in order to open up the pass. That is not the case, especially not in college football anymore. Doug, great to see you. So that was one of the big mistakes. We saw it in Michigan, and we've seen it a few other times. And you can harken back to, you used to hear a lot of comments from Coach Meyer about, I look at balanced offense as being 250. And he was being a little exaggerating, right? 250 versus Akron or something like that. But that was always his goal, was to have that 250. I agree with you. I don't think that should be the goal anymore at Ohio State. I think a 300-100 is just as great of an offensive day. And what you do is you look to get Jeremiah Smith involved early on, or Carnell Tate. You get up 7-0, 10-0. And then what that does on that third series is it really puts that pressure on the defense. Oh, are they going to start throwing again? It really opens up the run game. So I think that flipping mindset is going to be important. But I think the real question is going to be, who's going to call plays for this offense?
Yeah, and it's gotta be the man, right?
You mean Coach
not Ryan Day? It's not Day's not calling it. Day's not calling it. He's got it. He's got the executive function where he can be like, I'm going to override this. I veto that play. Let's call this. And I'm sure some of the game planning is going to be Ryan Day doing it too. But you got to think, you hire a guy, offensive coordinator, you got to let him go. And I think that's where Ryan Day had to get over that edge, and he had to have Chip Kelly being the man to get him over that edge.
It's a lot different in
Hartline's going to be calling the plays.
It's a lot different in trusting Chip Kelly to call plays versus Brian Hartline, who outside of a spring game in 2023 has never called plays. That is a huge jump. And also, by the way,
the spring game was where
against
Ryan
Central
Day was
Michigan.
like, I can't do it. I can't give away my baby. I got to call him. I got to call the play.
No, and I told you this too, as being a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, we saw something very similar up in Cleveland with Coach Stefanski. Absolutely did not want to give up play calling. People were screaming for it. They finally forced his hand to do so. It was a terrible decision. He took it back. So you do see this from a lot of head coaches who are coordinators. They have a really difficult time giving that up. But the point I want to make is you start August 30th against Texas. I could see if you had maybe a softer non-conference, right, and 3 kind of soft games like you had this year, so to speak, and maybe Michigan State and a couple others, you kind of start out slow. I'd actually be okay with calling the plays. But you start out against Texas this year, you think he's going to hand over play calling to somebody who's never done it in a game before against a top 10 opponent? No way. No way.
And the way it went down in the playoffs, you got to think Texas. You got to think Sarkisian is like, I am ready. And a brand new starting quarterback, brand new offensive coordinator, a guy with experience as coordinator also, and also a quarterback coach who's new to the system, right? And we'll get into those later. But what I found was interesting was me and you were having a conversation when they announced that Tyler Bowen was going to be named the offensive line coach. And I was like, yep, that means Hartline's offensive coordinator right away. Because you look at what Bowen fits in, and he had that offensive line coaching. He coached tight end, so that's a lot related to offensive line. He's got that run scheme down, and he was the offensive coordinator in the past too, which is awesome. Because you were talking about this. You were like, you didn't want Hartline. You didn't want the promoted from within because you wanted Ohio State to do what Ohio State should do. Spend the money, go out and find the best of the best, hire them, and missing nothing. This team's going to be awesome.
And I want to clarify. I think Brian Hartline is absolutely amazing. And I think Brian Hartline is going to be an amazing coordinator and is going to be an amazing coach. I'm using future tense there just because I don't think he is at that level at Ohio State. Brian Hartline could go be the OC at probably 110 colleges right now, Division I. I absolutely believe that. He could probably be the head coach at 80 D1 schools right now. I absolutely believe that. This is a different level here at Ohio State, completely different. And I look at that completely different level and jump. I also look at what you're facing right out of the gate. There is no grace period there. And what my fear is, I don't want Coach Day second guessing any part of this when it's the second quarter in the shoe and it's 17-7 Texas, right? And his wheels start spinning, and he's worried less about that game management. He's worried more about is Coach Hartline making the right call? Do I need to override this? I don't want that. And so this is not a knock against Coach Hartline. What I'm saying is I don't know if he's ready to call plays at this level, and especially coming into a season that has a really tough schedule this year.
And Roger kind of makes a good point. Thanks for joining us, Roger.
Yeah, it is a good point on top of
losing. I'll keep that up there. Losing some players makes it a little bit more difficult, right? You lose Donovan Jackson, all-world tackle or guard, whatever you want to call him. It looks like he might even project to tackle in the NFL possibly. But you lose him. That makes a big difference, right? You lose Fryer, another starting offensive tackle, to the draft. You lose your quarterback. You lose both running backs. You lose the career leader in receptions. That makes a big difference, right? And those guys not having them back, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard on the offense coordinator. But you know what they have? They have all-world Jeremiah Smith. So you know what his job is going to be? Target Jeremiah Smith 20 times a game. I said 15 last year. That's where I wanted it to be. This year, it's got to be 20.
But we talked about this. We talked about this in the Texas game last year versus the Oregon and Tennessee and even the Notre Dame game. Everyone forgets that first touchdown against Notre Dame, Jeremiah's first touchdown. That was an absolutely brilliant play call where they spotted man, have Smith motion to the left, fade him back on a route, and he was wide open by 15 yards for a touchdown. I say that to say it's not just about targeting Jeremiah Smith. It's about the motion, the deception, the play calling. It's about making sure you're constantly putting him in a position to execute. You can't just line him up on the outside and say, okay, go get open, because you're going to get a corner that's going to come up and jam him. Yeah, Smith can beat that, but you're going to have the safety over top. That is not an easy thing to do. So,
and I think you learned that with the motions this year. And the motions were really key. And trying to disguise, and trying to disguise where you're trying to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, and trying to be unique, like the in motion going back out and getting the ball. They got to have some of those plays where it's confusing for a defense, something that you've seen run in the past. They got to have that on board for the future. But Hartline and and Bowen kind of went hand in hand, I think. And this is an interesting stat by Doug. He brings up something good that will kind of segue into talking about Bowen, because I think we're done with Hartline. I think it's a great hire. I think he's going to end up being one of the best of the best. Last final point, Saban only hired from within twice in his career. You know who one of those guys was?
No, who?
Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty.
I mean, it doesn't happen often. There's not a lot of success shown with that in major programs, but Kirby Smart's one of the best, right?
But that's that.
And Kirby Smart did it with Dan Lanning too.
Yeah, and again, Dan Lanning is an amazing coach. I think he's going to do amazing things at Oregon, wherever he ends up. But you're literally making my point for me. Is just because you have an elite program doesn't mean this. You have to always go from within. Nick Saban knew if he picked up the phone and called just about anybody in college football, he could get them to be his DC or his OC. I mean, short of 15 people, maybe. Outside of that, he could do that. And he knew that. So he knew, and he knew Alabama was going to spend, so he could go out and get whatever coordinator want. He was only going to promote you from within if he saw those attributes that he thought was going to make you a great coach, and you earned it. And by saying that his two from within are Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning, those two have clearly demonstrated their success.
Okay. Doug says he heard today. I'd like to know where you heard this too, because this is a great stat that Ohio State led the nation in yards before contact by the running backs. Virginia Tech was second. So hopefully Tyler Bowen will be a great offensive line coach. I am sure that he will. The one concern that I have is he hasn't been an offensive line coach for quite a while. I'm going to bring up his background here real quick. Let's take a look at him. All right. The cool thing is he started off in Maryland. So we're after an offensive tackle out of Maryland, which will be great. Hopefully that helps. And his recruiting prowess has been second to none. I mean, he coached Vermouth at Penn State. He was the lead recruiter, I believe, in Tyler Warren. So, and I think it was Oli Fascio.
Well, that one's an interesting one because Fascio, I'm sorry. Fashanu was technically a 4-star when it came out, but he was the 401st overall player, 32nd tackle. And I say that because he found this guy and turned him into a top 15 draft pick. He's also had a pretty good track record at not only, at Maryland, of all places, bringing in 4-star talent. And one of the biggest compliments I've read about Coach Bowen is his recruiting. People absolutely rave about his recruiting. They say he's amazing. Not only can he get out and pull that 4-star or 5-star based on the program he's at, but he can also find that diamond in the rough and develop like Fashanu. Again, a guy that's 401st overall that turns into a top 15 draft pick. That's pretty impressive. So I
listen to this experience too from him.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying you think we're getting what?
Oh, just from the recruiting angle. Yeah, just
absolutely.
The recruiting angle is crucial. So.
And that was kind of one of the knocks on the offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, who just went out, wasn't really a recruiter, didn't really like that business, but we had a lot of young guys on the team that were willing to step up to the plate and do that recruiting. Also, Jim Knowles wasn't really known for wanting to get out on the recruiting cycle, but coordinators often don't. They're not the biggest recruiters. You have the position coaches that are out recruiting the most, and then coordinators come in and kind of seal the deal, which is the way it should be. It's going to be interesting because I think Tyler Bowen seems like a guy who loves recruiting. He's like a Hartline who just wants to do it. He has that vibe, that aura about them that when they get out and get in the home, they're going to seal the deal.
I agree. And I think you made the point best of all that if you look at either one of these hires in a vacuum, I think they're good. I think the pairing of these two is what makes this a great hire. I agree.
Absolutely. The concern, he hasn't been an offensive line coach since 2017. But I mean, when you're the coordinator, when you're the offensive, what was he considered, the offensive recruiting coordinator and tight ends coach, you're kind of still coaching the offensive line.
Same with tight ends. If you're a tight end coach,
that's what I mean with the tight end.
You're
And that
spending a lot
was
of time with the O line because you got to do a lot of blocking schemes. So
2018 and 2019, interim offensive coordinator in 2019, also co-offensive coordinator at Penn State, offensive recruiting coordinator, and still tight ends coach in 2020. So as little as 4 years ago, he was still coaching. Oh, even 2021 in his brief stint in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer. So we all know where that came from. Like Urban Meyer was like, yeah, go hire this dude.
But he was an offensive lineman in college. And then you see
Correct.
his entire
Yeah.
career is peppered with either coaching the line or coaching tight ends or being on that side of the ball. So you're immersed in that world. And what I see from here is kind of a lot of exposure on the offensive side of the ball, but he has a focus. And now what's nice about this is Coach Day can come in and say, listen, I need you to care about one thing and one thing only, and that's the offensive line. You don't have to worry about anything else. And when a person is good at something and they can really just focus in on one component of that, I think that's where those elite traits can come out. So the history only builds to the fact that now that he's focused in on just the O-line and he does extremely well with recruiting, younger person, same as Hartline. Again, I think recruiting, especially in college football, it's a young man's game just because of the miles and the time and constantly glued to your phone and social media. So
having that drive, right?
Yeah.
Like having that extra oomph to get through it. It's backbreaking, like not backbreaking work, but it's just grueling, exhausting. Like you have to just be able to not get sleep and go out and have tons of energy. Like slam that Starbucks and let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you're in one city this day, you're in this city the next. I mean, it is a very tough life. Trust me, I've lived it. It's not fun to do, and so you have to be kind of that younger vibe. And I think getting on that side of the ball, having your coordinators being younger and can really drive recruiting, and then Day comes in at the 11th hour, closes the door. That's what you want.
So 2022 was the last tight end coaching experience he had. So really not that far out. And, like I said, it's kind of similar to the offensive line. He was an offensive lineman too in college at Maryland. Look at the offensive scoring at Virginia Tech when he was there. He got there 2022, became the offensive coordinator. They were 118th. The very next year, they go all the way down. I believe it was 56. Double check here. 56th in the nation. Then 2024 jumped up a little bit to 67th. But man, that was a dramatic change in scoring output. I didn't look too much into the rest of it, but their offensive scoring was awesome under him. So we'll take it, man. There's something about him, and I think he's going to mesh well with Hartline.
I agree. I think they will. And I think the big piece that's been missing, especially along the offensive line, has been recruiting. We've talked about it in the past, having to fill holes with the transfer portal. It's worked out in a lot of cases, but that well's not always going to be there. And so
Speaking of that,
recruiting, it's a big piece, man.
We got some Ohio boys that need to be kind of wrapped up with this, and we need a good recruiter to do it. This is a year to get some offensive tackles. So Max Riley, Avon Lake, man, he is a 4-star player. But I'm even more excited about Sam Greer. If you watch that dude play basketball, I watched him at the state championship at UD Arena when they won the title. Dude can move 6'6" or 6'6.5", 310 pounds out of Akron, Archbishop Hoban. We got to get that dude. He has got to be at Ohio State. And then you have Guthrie, Adam Guthrie, offensive tackle out of Washington Courthouse. Miami Trace, 6'7", 285. When you have those guys in your backyard, you got to get them. But he's even got some others, man. There is Jackson Cantwell, and he is out of Missouri, but they also have a Maryland dude. This Maryland guy, he might be able to help with that. He's got the connections in that area. So if we can get Emmanuel, not going to pronounce his last name correctly yet.
Go for it, man.
Inacho, that's probably not even close. But again, big dude. He is 6'6", 6'6.5", 345 pounds. He's nationally number 5, number 2 at the position, and number 2 in the state. So we got to get some of those dudes. And we got a guy that can recruit the offensive line to do it.
I mean, and that's what we've been missing, man. You've got to start. this next cycle, in all seriousness, you got to be looking at 4 to 6 offensive linemen, and we need them. We need a bunch of 4-stars. We talked about it too. You don't need to be reaching on these three stars. I like the Miami Trace kid, right? I like his measurables. We'll see maybe this next football season if he can bump up to a 4-star. But I even say with a kid like that, we'll let you go to Northwestern. We'll let you go somewhere else, and we'll see what you can do in a year or two. These 4 and 5
in the portal.
You got to start wrapping them up. You have to.
Yep. All right, let's get into the locker room a little bit. We play Texas first game of the year, and it's going to be in the shoe. Will that be prime time?
That's
will
all
be
you,
big
buddy.
noon. It is going to be big noon. You can bet your ass it will be.
Yeah, it will be.
All right, Roger.
Fox didn't pay Fox did not pay all that money to not play.
Happening. Fox
Ohio
is
State
going to
Texas
put it on at noon. All right. He was just telling us where he got the information. Hey, Doug, Bowen should have a lot of input in the run game. Absolutely. That is where we really think that he's going to help Hartline too, for sure.
But I think as you're going through the comments,
Tyler Warren was a 3-star. Yeah.
I think the run game is critically important this year. You don't have Travion. You don't have Quinchon anymore. You have a pretty young running back room by and large. So I think the one area of weakness is going to be the run game from a running back perspective. So if he can really get in and build that lineup and start making some bigger holes, those running backs are going to look a hell of a lot better.
Billy Tuesday, man, joins us. It hasn't been officially announced, and that is kind of interesting. Maybe that there is some back and forth on pay, or
it's contract. That can be the finer points of a contract, or they just have.
That's what I would imagine.
Yeah. So
you think it was a good hire so far? Looks good, right?
It does. It does.
Any reservations?
No, because I saw the landscape and really I think the Bowen hire is fantastic. I absolutely love it. And again, I love Hartline. I completely love Hartline. I worry about the lack of play calling. That's the only piece I'm worried about. However, when we've been going back and forth on options, I didn't really see that option that stuck out to me. I'm a little biased towards Coach Candle up at Toledo. I know his name was floated around, but short of that, there was nothing that really stood out to me. So I think it was a really good, solid hire because Coach Day is an offensive mind. And I think if he can bring that side of the ball together, instill that trust in Hartline, I think it can turn out to be great.
Is there a concern that Ryan Day has a national title, so he's got a hall pass, like for a year or two?
He absolutely has a hall pass.
And he might have made a decision with knowing that he has a hall pass, or no?
Potentially, yeah. He does, and he absolutely has a hall pass. I mean, again, I know we joked last week about going 8-5. I don't think Ohio State's going 8-5, but you maybe look at a world where Ohio State could go 9-3, 10-2, and I'm talking worst case scenario, right? And you get bounced in the first round. I don't think anyone's going to be screaming and hollering, especially with a redshirt freshman quarterback playing. Mm-hmm. The tail of the tape's going to come in 2026, ultimately, when Julian Sayin has a year under his belt. This staff has a year under its belt. I don't know what that schedule looks like, but you probably have Penn State off the schedule, I would have to believe at that point. You played them in back-to-back years. You don't play Oregon in 26, I know, because you travel to USC. So you got Michigan. So I kind of look at this and say 25 needs to be like a get-right year. Let's get everybody aligned. Let's get Sayin some experience. You still have Smith in 26. Let's get the running back O-line room recruiting-wise right. Yeah, you will lose Downs. But, yeah, he does have a hall pass this year as long as it's not a 5-6 loss year.
Yeah, so there's some things that we got to jump into. First, the Michigan, we talked about it. He has a hall pass, man. I don't think it matters what happens against Michigan. He just won a national title, and he's the third straight Ohio State coach, if you don't want to count Fickle taking that position for the 1 year that doesn't really count. Man, it's great to be a Buckeye, man. Can you think about that? Just fathom that? Like, every hire has been right. Every coaching hire has been the right hire.
Yeah. We were talking about it today. The only other university that has 3 straight coaches that have won is LSU. It's an incredible feat.
And that's amazing for LSU too. I mean, it's like
Oh,
you
yeah,
don't think of
absolutely.
LSU being that great because it just doesn't seem like it happens that often. And they were like the little brother of Saban,
They were, but
even though he was one of those coaches.
he was one of those coaches. And Les Miles did a lot of things right, and honestly, Orgeron fell into just an embarrassment of riches that year with Burrow and Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I could have coached that team to a national title. That's elite talent. So they've done a lot of things right. They always recruit extremely well down at LSU. I think Brian Kelly's one of the most overrated coaches in college football. So I think that's why you're seeing it. But you get somebody halfway competent there. Louisiana's got a lot of good football on it. So that's not surprising.
And surrounded by good football too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it did play into it that he felt like he had a hall pass. I think he thinks it's the best hire. I don't think Ryan Day makes that choice without thinking this is the best possible hire I can get. And I think we're going to see it. Hartline is a star in the making. Everything he's done. When he came to Ohio State, it was like, you're not going to be a starter. He was a starter. You're not going to get drafted in the NFL. He gets drafted in the NFL. You're not going to have an impact in the NFL. He was only the NFL's leading receiver. I think it was 3 years. And then you come in out of nowhere to be the coach. He's like, you're not gonna be that great because you don't have any coaching experience. That wide receiver room is the best in the nation by far. By far. You can't get any better than what he's done. So he's going to have that same work ethic, that same grind. People are going to tell him he's not going to be a good offensive coordinator. And guess what? He's going to show everyone up.
Yeah. And, one of the things I want to look at is you look at, I know it's the NFL, right? But Sean McVay, coach of the Rams, a lot of people can argue he's one of the best offensive minds or coordinators in the NFL. And the guy started being an offensive coordinator at age 28. And I say that in reference to Hartline that, I've knocked a little of the age or the experience, but you can see a lot of really great offensive minds, especially start at a relatively young age and really thrive and grow. So I think, again, my only wish was you didn't open the season against Texas. I would have liked Grambling State week 1 or something. And just to get your feet under you. Ohio week 2, Texas week 3 would have been nice. I know that's reversed, but I think if they can really bring him along and instills that trust and really can be that game manager and hand it over, we'll see. But I do want to be clear, that has not been announced yet.
If push comes to shove and it's a shit show, they can take over too. That's the thing. If they're both on the same wave, and I know you don't want it, but it's possible. It's possible. And I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying that if need be, it's there. That's interesting, Billy. Billy Tuesday is coming with some good stuff today.
Yeah. Thank you, Billy.
The thought is they hire an older analyst to help Bowen out. And I don't know that he'll need that because he's got, I think, 25 years of coaching experience. He's only 35 years old. Wilson and LaCharles Bentley are being talked about. Wilson would be a great hire to have an analyst job in the program, and you can get as many as you want. LaCharles Bentley, I don't know why he's not on staff, to be honest with you. There's something there, like maybe he's wanting to coach in the high school ranks for longer, and I know he's got that developmental program for offensive linemen, and he's really successful at that. Maybe he just likes what he's doing. I don't know.
Yeah, and Wilson's an intriguing as an analyst, right? You said there's not a threshold. Obviously, taking a year off this cycle will be helpful. He might need to build his brand, to be honest with you, because you just got fired by Tulsa. You're going to have to come back. If I'm Wilson, you're probably going to have to come back as an OC somewhere at a pretty high school to get another bite at that apple. So I think it could be a smart play for him to just come for one season.
2026 will be JJ and Chris Henry Jr. demolition of the defenses. That could be a badass show. That could be a real, if Chris Henry Jr. turns out into what he's projected to be, that's going to be a hell of an offense, man. But who knows? He might be sitting behind some receivers by then. I don't know if he'll be good enough to get to the field.
If he is,
should be interesting. Hey, let's take that. I'll take that natty
like
back
it,
to back.
Roger.
Let's do it. I like where you're at, Roger.
But I think all this actually plays into a great point, and we saw it come true this year, where maybe your point's valid all along, where we say, hey, we trust Hartline. We're going to give him play calling. Yes, it's week 1 against Texas. We're going to see what he does against adversity. Guess what? We lose against Texas week 1, you're fine. Week 12, you lose against Michigan. Guess what, Ohio State? You're fine. You know why? Because we saw it this year. So 2 to 3 losses, again, going through that adversity, this could actually help this younger coaching staff really grow and develop. And that's the beauty of this system we're in now, is we don't have any of that pressure anymore. It's just go out and be great.
Don't forget Quincy Porter. Who could forget Quincy Porter coming on up in the ranks? This is an interesting story. Brian Hartline broke his femur season opener of his senior year. That I did not know. The following spring, he won state in the 100 and 200 hurdles. Wow. A man that can overcome.
No,
thanks, Wayne, for joining us, man.
I like it.
So we don't have a defensive coordinator, and we're going to have to get to that next after we get it nice and spicy in here. It's time for Danos. I know people are buying it now because their sales are going up just from our show, I do believe. So get you some. Yum, yum.
Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe,
Hey.
we all know you're the best.
What?
You can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
we do want to take Texas. Texas is going to be bringing it. They're going to be sour, man. After losing in the Cotton Bowl like that, they thought they had a chance. Ohio State was just too good. This was Ohio State's year. You're not going to take Ohio State down.
And by the way, Texas has lost a lot along the defensive line the last 2
Sure.
seasons. They had some really good defensive line play they're going to have to replenish.
Mhm.
And let's not be afraid of a guy because of his last name, because I ain't seen him play much. And what little I have seen, ain't no Peyton or Eli that I've seen. So, yeah, let's bring him on. Let's go.
I did hear someone say it could be the next big thing. Quincy Porter. Hey,
Well, you keep burying the lead on me, man. You know I only talk defense, and you're making me talk offensive coordinators for 30 minutes.
hey, here we go. It's time. It's time to talk about it. Let's bring it on. Hey, and then in a little bit we'll get Mike Germanese on here. I know I don't see him on stage anymore. Oh, there he is. Let's see. Let's get him on here. Let's see what he thinks. All right. And we need to switch to 3-person mode. Give me a second. Here we go. All right, here we
Gentlemen,
go.
what's
Mike
going on?
Germanese is on. How you doing, brother?
Excellent. How you guys doing?
Not bad. Got to get your take on hiring from within. Do you think that's something that these big boys should be doing?
Well, it depends. Depends who the coach is, his experience, how long he's been there. I'm going to have to agree with Matt on this one with Hartline. I think they should have went outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason is, I know you guys are saying that it's a free pass. If Ohio State loses to Texas off the start, and all of a sudden Franklin,
don't you even go there.
Like, all
Don't
of a sudden
even-
Franklin pops Ohio State for the first time since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
That whole tune's going to change come the Michigan game. Because if Day goes into that game and you need it to make the playoff and you lose that game,
Mm-hmm.
it's a free pass. Because I'll tell you who said it was a free pass, Michigan fans. And you know what happened after the Texas game? That free pass went out the window.
Yeah, but nobody's
I
calling for
felt like-
Coach Moore's head right now, dude. It
They
is.
were before the Northwestern game.
Yeah, but you went 8-5, which Michigan should never lose 5 games in a season, and nobody's calling for his head right now. It is a free pass.
By the
Well-
way, from the locker room, if you're new to us, we call you the locker room in the comments. And Mike Germanese is a Michigan fan, but we can take him a little bit.
Thanks,
He gets a
He's
hall pass
unbiased.
to come on the show.
Unbiased, so cut him some slack. Read all of his articles.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff out there.
Yeah.
Working for Mike Farrell Sports now. Moving on up in the world.
Now, can I ask you guys a question?
Yes, bring it.
Is Hartline a hire? Not that he doesn't deserve it, but if he got passed up, would he still be there?
Yes. Yes, he would.
Even if somebody else came calling?
He's a Buckeye, buddy.
Yeah, I think he's
a Buckeye.
He's wanting to be in Columbus, raise his kids in Columbus.
Yeah, born and raised in Canton, buddy. He's an Ohio guy. He's a Buckeye through and through.
I mean, at some point, if you want to be a head coach, you got to move on, though. I just don't think he's ready yet. I don't think it was a situation where if you don't promote me now, I'm gone. I think it was this is the guy.
No, I'm
for
not
the
saying
job.
that. I'm just saying if somebody came calling, because he was the OC in 2023, but he wasn't really the OC in 2023 day one.
If he wanted to go to the NFL right now and be a wide receiver coach, he could. They would take him in a heartbeat. If he wanted to be an offensive coordinator at 100 different places, he could.
Yeah.
Maybe not the big boys yet. I don't know. Maybe he could at the big boys. I mean, he is at Ohio State.
Outside of the SEC and the Big Ten, he could probably get any OC job he wanted.
Just a question.
No, I don't think he could have stayed wide receiver coach the next 7 years, right? To your point, he would be chomping at the bit to be an OC or to move on. But I think he's still relatively young. I mean, he's only really had 7 full years of coaching period at any position. So he is still relatively young. People like that know that you kind of have to earn your stripes, especially at Ohio State. So I don't think there was an ultimatum around this hire, but I think if it wasn't going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, there would have been an ultimatum.
And I also agree with Matt's point about if things start getting tight, is they going to let him continue to call the plays?
I think Dan will jump in when he needs to.
Because in 2023, I heard.
I think he always does. He did after the Michigan loss. He was like, "All right, I'm going to be more involved with this offense," and he was, and you saw the difference.
That's different.
And I don't think that's necessarily
no. Because listen, I think me and Matt are talking about two different things. Chip Kelly was still calling the plays, but they might have had some insight into it. What we're talking about, I think, if it gets tight, would they just start calling the plays, and Hartline's not going to really say anything? Where Dave's going to take it over like he did in 23?
No, Dave's past.
Well, he didn't take it over. He never gave it up.
Yeah.
So there was zero chance that Hartline was calling plays in 23, and Dave came right out and said it right away that he was doing it. This, to your point, and Steve talks about like overriding, that should be 1 to 3 times a game at most, an override. And that should be in just the really extreme situations. But if you start seeing like every series, he's giving his input and calling that's where you're eroding trust in your coordinator and you're eroding trust in that play call. So I think he pretty much, if he's going to make that decision, he has to stick with it at least in 2025.
Hey, it's time to talk defense. Let's do this.
Yes.
Boom. Here we have it. Who do you think it's going to be? Who is this coach, and why do you want him so bad?
Colin?
Kansas City defensive line coach Joe Colin. It's got to be him. Why would they wait so long to announce? Why would they wait so long for a search? They're waiting until after the Super Bowl. There's obvious interest, right? It's already been communicated from his agent to Ohio State or Ryan Day, one of the two, that there's interest there. That's why they're waiting. Otherwise, someone would be named by now. Well, he's going to be interviewed after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Steve, you and I talked on Monday, and we said if we start getting to Thursday of this week and we haven't seen any smoke or heard anything, it's probably going to be Colin, right? Because they're waiting for the Super Bowl to be over and they want to interview him. And this is where we are right now. And I think, to your point, has Colin talked today? Probably not. right? But their people have talked to our people and so on and so forth, back channel, all of that. There has to be some type of mutual interest. The only thing I told you about that I'd be fearful of is if Kansas City wins, because one, no team in the NFL has ever won 3 straight Super Bowls. So Kansas City would have done that. And does he want to stick around to possibly win a 4th, to make history upon history? So there would have to be some allure here that we're not seeing in terms of, why he would want this job. What's his tie? You look at his history, you don't see a lot there. He was born and raised in Massachusetts. So I'm not seeing a lot of connections there. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was you or I that said this, but yeah, Day did get involved in the play calling, and he said he got involved in press conferences that he said he was going to even before, like right after the Michigan game. He said he was going to be more involved, and he did. And that was the change in the offense. I think everyone coming together and deciding. And I think that was kind of what was talked about also in the Day and the player only meeting. I'm gonna have more input on this offense, and we're gonna make it work. And you boys are gonna win a national title. And guess what? They did. But yeah, back to the defense. Sorry, squirrel. I got caught up in the locker room like I always do.
I'm proud of you, man. You're seeing it. You're seeing it in real time, dude. I don't even have to say it anymore. I love it. But this is, again, this seems to be where they're leaning, because we've gone through the list, right? Jeff Hafley at Green Bay.
Out.
To your point, we don't really see him transition away from the NFL. You're seeing kind of these second names like Haycock or Bates or something like that. I think you see a name like that come out after all of this. That seems like a settle hire instead of the right hire. Unless you pry somebody like Parker away from Iowa or something like that. Again, we've gone through the list, but if you also looked at last week, I know there's been a lot of heat around the offensive side of the ball with Hartline and Bowen. You haven't seen one article written about the defensive side of the ball and who they're looking at. So to me, that quiet period tells me it is Colin, because right now there's only a handful of coaches, football coaches in the world that aren't doing interviews, and they're playing on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, everyone else in the college football world is doing interviews, unless it was like a former head coach that was kind of sitting out there waiting for a job. And I can't think of any off the top of my hand right now, but maybe
this one makes the most sense.
There's some retired coaches that want to get back. It's the only one that makes sense to me. I don't have any inside information in it, but I mean, I'd be willing to bet money that he's going to be the guy that's calling the plays next year on the defensive side of the ball.
The fact you're not hearing anything, like there's nothing at all, whoever they're targeting has to be
doesn't want it out.
Yeah, it's somebody who's on the sideline on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it has to be, because you would at least hear something. With the way media is today, somebody would see something, somebody would hear something. There would be a leak somewhere that they've at least talked to this guy, but there's nothing.
There hasn't even been any like fake leaks. Like, I know who it is. Which is interesting.
Which
because
usually
no news. That's why.
Which usually tells me they already have their guy targeted, and they even if they can't talk to him through whatever channels they had to, they know what the number is going to be. They know what the agreement's going to be, and they already have all that said. Now it's just a matter of sitting down and making sure everything goes the way they want, and then the deal will come out.
I think Matt Guerrieri is the only option if this doesn't go through with Colin.
And that's the one I do like.
Walton.
It's funny. I actually do like the concept of kind of going inside a little on this one, just because I don't see that ideal hire out there. And even looking at Colin, I kind of ask myself, why does he want this job? And I understand the lure of Ohio State and being a defensive coordinator, but Steve, you and I have talked a lot about this the last few weeks, because I definitely have more of an NFL feel than you do. Coaches are very distinct whether or not they can execute well at the college level or the NFL level. You pretty
Where's
much
he from?
Massachusetts. He's from Massachusetts, but you rarely see that coach that can be successful in both And that's because you either have coaches we talked about with Bowen and others who love the recruiting, who love the atmosphere, who love the college side of the ball. And then there are others, and I'd probably fit into that camp, where I like the professionalism of football. I just want to coach professionals, guys getting paid, guys that this is their job to put food on the table for their families. The NFL is a completely different animal than college. He's been in the NFL side of the ball for an extremely long period of time. Why is he making that jump to college now all of a sudden?
That is interesting.
Especially with one of the best teams in the NFL history.
Your
one
life
of
in
the
the
best
NFL is a lot.
tackles.
Your life in the NFL is a lot better too.
You get paid more in the NFL than college.
You don't have to run around eating somebody's bad spaghetti and telling them it's excellent because you want their son to come to your school.
Yeah.
You get to travel.
Sucking up to 17
I don't need a second.
Man, it sounds miserable. It sounds miserable to me.
You don't have to deal with. You let the agents deal with the players. You let the general man. You just come and coach, game plan, do what you have to do. Like, I don't understand why you would leave the NFL.
I don't even.
Yeah, Tim Walton's not going anywhere.
Especially Kansas City, whose defensive line's amazing. You have an amazing D coordinator in Spagnuolo. Like, you're literally leaving one of the best NFL organizations right now that could be destined to be in the Super Bowl 5 of the next 10 years. That's how good they're set up. So he is leaving the best of the best right now.
And think about this too. In the NFL, you have contracts. In college, it's literally 1-year deals. You got to recruit. You not only are you going out to recruit, you got to recruit your own players
every day.
Where
every day
maybe fire? Where's maybe fire Ryan Day?
I don't know.
He has not come back with a name change.
He's probably using his real name, and we're just missing it, man.
Is this Billy Tuesday? Like maybe fire Ryan Day. Had to.
We didn't kick him off the show. We never kicked him off the show with anything. All we asked was just a name change at the end. That was all we asked. So
come on back. Come
on
back, man. I want to see what your new name is.
I don't know why anybody would.
NFL coaches get more time off. Yeah,
I completely agree, and they're right. They get more time off. They're better paid. They're just it's if you make it to the NFL and the NFL wants you, it's really surprising to see that move back to college.
All right, Billy Tuesday's not maybe fire Ryan Day. Everyone that maybe Rogers, maybe that's Roger. No, because that's Facebook.
Squirrel.
Dang it. This right here, Tim Walton needs to remain on the team. It's imperative. Definitely. I like what we have, where we have, especially on the defensive side of the ball now, we have Tim Walton and we have Johnson. Those kind of like older men that like tell you about the history, that know it, that have been there, that have done that, mixing with those younger guns that are able to get out there and recruit and hit the road and have all that energy in the world to do anything that they need to, because you need a mix of both. And I thought that was what we had a really good mix of last year with Chip Kelly too, and then having some of those younger guns. Billy Fessler, he's making his way up, and now the quarterback's coach. We'll get into him later. Actually, no, we're on it already. But he came over with Chip Kelly. He was a quarterback coach. He was at Ohio State before that as a GA, then comes over with Chip Kelly as an analyst, and now he's a quarterback coach. And even Will Howard gave him a shout out, said he was kind of that unsung hero that didn't get that much attention, but he was really instrumental in me getting better this year. And you saw how much Will got better, especially towards the end of the season in the playoffs, when he was money, man. His feet were good. He was throwing the ball deep. He was hitting the guys on target. And it was just a completely different change. And Tim Walton, moral of the story, needs to be on this team, and I think he will no matter what.
Yeah, but I'm curious your thoughts. Why not Laurinaitis?
Years of experience.
Okay. Because Laurinaitis and Hartline are the same age. Now, to that point, Hartline does have more coaching experience. I tried to, Doug. Trust me, it's a lot harder than it looks. But Hartline has more experience, but they're the exact same age. So, is this one of those cases where Laurinaitis maybe is just not there yet, but you look at one of these hires with Colin and say, hey, you give us 2-3 years, we got some really great coordinators on this staff. You start building them up, and maybe Laurinaitis is your DC in 3 years.
I think that's the ultimate plan. Yeah.
It actually makes a lot of sense. Go get a little somebody, because you don't want to, when you're replacing guys with what one has 36 years and one has 34 years, and you're replacing both of them, it would be nice to have a new OC or a new DC with somebody who's very experienced on the other side.
I would agree. I like that balance out, but
you don't want to go two brand new coordinators. Even you just won the national championship, but it's still nice to have that experience at least on one side of the ball, where you can at least know they've been through some of these situations before.
Well, I am curious, given the Michigan perspective, you saw your entire coaching staff, right, ripped apart after last season with Harbaugh and others gone. What did you see from the hires that they were making after kind of losing their entire coaching staff?
The problem was,
what were some of the hits or misses that you kind of saw in those hirings?
The problem was, because it's like you just said, when it was so late, and Sharon Moore is not Ryan Day. Sharon Moore is a first-time head coach. You're not going to get the same respect as Ryan Day, who's been doing it for a while, right? You can't just call up other teams and be like, oh, I want to talk to this guy, or call the guy up and be like, hey, you want to come here? They have no idea what he's about, what he was going to do. And it was a rough year, and you're seeing it. Yeah, they got Wink Martindale, but let's be honest, this was a retirement gig for him. There was no one who really wanted him in the NFL at the time. Now, after what he showed at the end of the year, you're starting to see that feedback. So, if anything, we'll probably have him for another year, then he'll be gone. But hopefully by that time, it's like you just said, that maybe there's somebody behind him sitting there, or he can win enough this year where he can make those calls to those other programs and take their guy.
And who's the OC? Who's the OC there?
Oh, the guy who just came, Lindsay. Chip Lindsay from North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because
even that, like you've seen, he hired within for the offensive coordinator, and it was a disaster, right? So what happened?
That's his brainchild. I mean, Sharon Moore is an offensive guy, so
soon as the season ended, you got rid of him and you went with a guy with a lot more experience. Why? Because you need that, especially when you have a young head coach.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a quarterback issue, right?
it was a quarterback issue. We can call it for what it is. And that's where Steve and I were talking. I think, you know, the big thing to me was if Hartline was coming into a position, and I'm just making this up, but let's say it's a second year of Stroud or a second year of Braxton Miller or Justin Fields, you have a lot more confidence in that third year quarterback who's played 2 years in the system, where you can kind of have Hartline as the OC, but you have the confidence in that quarterback that if he wants to kill a play or nick something or go something else, you're giving him that confidence. I think the other component here that's worrisome is you got a redshirt freshman in Julian Sain step in. Yeah, he's been in the program for a year, but he doesn't have that feel. And I think you can compare it a lot to Michigan, where Sharon Moore just didn't have a quarterback, period. I don't even know played quarterback there most of the year.
We didn't even have a quarterback who can functionally throw it forward. Like, yeah, it's hard to win games if you can't pass for 10 yards.
Truth. I mean, so that's another component, I think, with this Hartline who's calling plays, right? Is how quickly does Julian Sain grow and develop, and how quickly do they trust him to kind of take the reins on this offense? Because that is a major component with the offensive coordinator. And again, we saw it in Michigan last year.
It's going to be one of those things where, you're going to have to give him time to learn, and he's going to have to kind of cut his teeth. It's how much time are they going to give him, or mistakes? Because there's going to be, no matter what, if you get a first-time OC, you're going to let him call plays, he's going to make mistakes.
I agree. I think you made a really great comment with the fact that this schedule this year, you got Texas, you got Penn State, you travel again, Illinois. We're going to talk a lot about in August, has so many people returning that, okay, let's just say, to your point, you lose to Texas, you lose to Penn State, right? You now have that amped up pressure of that Michigan game. you're questioning this offense. Are they clicking? Are they doing things right? And to your point, that Michigan game now becomes impactful because it's a playoff play-in game. Again, like we said it had died all these years. It had died as a result of last year. It hasn't. If you're a 2-loss team going into that, and if Michigan's a 2-loss team going into that, that's a de facto playoff game.
Oh, 100%. Because it's not like Michigan's going to have Oklahoma and USC. And USC is going to be a lot better than people think this year.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, you could have literally that game. And I was telling Steve before the game even happened for Michigan, Ohio State, I didn't care. That the game that's not going to mean anything.
Yeah.
Even if Michigan wins, I didn't rub it in. I didn't call Steve like I wanted to sometimes. Because at the end of the day, I still picked Ohio State to win the national championship. But you get both those teams 2 losses and you're playing for the playoff. The losing coach is going to get it bad from the fan base.
Yeah.
I got to get it. I got to get back into the locker room, boys.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't know if it was technical issues. I'm like, I'm just going to ride with.
I was just letting you boys go because there's a couple things I got to get into.
No, please get into it.
If Zach Smith hadn't made a mess concerning his divorce, we may never have had Brian Hartline. That is absolutely true. That is a
I
damn
think made a mess is
possibility.
an understatement. Wow. Yeah. Everything happens for
yeah.
a reason. It's a terrible situation.
Lincoln Kienholz, I'm not sure that he's not going to end up pushing for the job, man. There's a lot of smoke to that. And I hope he does, man. I love the way he stuck it out. And he's just a baller from the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. Let's do it, man. 3-sport star.
He was a 3-star, originally committed to Washington. Ohio State flipped him. But this is what we've talked about with the transfer portal in these upper echelon programs is you're going to have some of these 3-stars on your roster to build that depth and support.
Yeah.
Because you need guys that can practice. You need guys that can fill in a pinch. You also need guys that aren't looking to say, listen, I'm going to go to Auburn. I'm going to go to Michigan State. I'm going to go somewhere else because I want to start and I want to play. You kind of need the Lincoln Kienholz to give you depth.
Yep.
He's not beating out Julian Sand.
Let's see. We're going to see about that.
I'll now.
You guys brace yourself in the locker room. You're not going to you might need to look away. Oh man, that's the ugliest sight I've ever seen in my life. What the hell's going on? How do you feel about this in the locker room? I got to get your perspective because to me, I think this is just disgusting. I would never let my son, no matter what the case is, that's not an option. In fact, my son's 5. I saw this picture and I told him, take the University of Michigan off your list of places you could possibly attend for college. It's not happening. And I told my daughter the same. She's 9 and she said, I know, I'm not going there.
See, I'm different. My oldest wants to go to Ohio State. And I'm like, no, I don't care where they go. If they're going to go get a world education at one of these institutions, I don't care where they want to go. You want to go to Notre Dame, Ohio State.
Yeah, you can go to Notre Dame. I don't care.
I don't care.
You just can't go to Michigan. I'm not supporting that.
Mike, you're just a better person than Steve and I. Well,
Steve,
we
already established Steve hates America, and now we're finding out he hates education too.
Check out our previous episode.
His kids are not going to be in a good spot when your dad hates America and hates education.
That is true.
It's not good,
dude. I am the biggest proponent of America. Go back to Canada where you belong.
No.
So if your daughter,
we actually have that on wax, Steve, knocking the service academy. So
if your daughter could go to Michigan to school,
it never happened.
You wouldn't let her go. One of the top business schools in the country. You wouldn't let her go.
No. If she can get in there, why not go to Harvard?
Yep.
What happens if she can't get into Harvard? She can get into Michigan.
Michigan's not where she's going. She's not going to do it.
See, I don't understand that.
I would be like, if you can get in there, go to Ohio State's business school. It's great too.
It's nowhere.
No one's going to care once you graduate. No one's going to care once you graduate.
No, that's all they care about. And to me, education is different. You want to hate them on the field, hate them. Education, I don't care where they go to school.
I do.
As long as
it's going to be a part of their life forever, and I'm going to have to see that disgusting diploma in her house every time I go over there. It's not happening.
But I do want to go back real fast to the picture with Herb Street. when I saw this, you know what I loved about it?
Yes, yes.
99.9% of those photos you'll ever see, you always have the family members like decked out in that team's apparel.
Not
right?
one of them.
Not
Except for
one of
Mom.
them.
I think
And
Mom's
love-
got a Michigan hat on.
He's got the closest blue, but Herb Street is flat out saying, listen, give me a neutral blue coat. I'll wear a neutral blue coat. I'm not going to raise a fuss. I'm a professional, but there's no way in hell you're putting that logo on my jacket that I'm wearing for my son. I'm proud of my son. I love my son, but I love the fact that the family supports their family, but will not wear the apparel. This to me could not be a better photo. You all know, go back a couple of shows ago, how much my admiration for Kirk Herbstreit grew really with this playoff run and the things he experienced. This just sold it to me even more. I love it.
I love Kirk.
I like Kirk. I like Kirk Herbstreit, and I'll give him credit. And I will never say that a father supporting his son is a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not my perspective. I'm going to be a Spielman type of father. Like, no, you're not going there. It's not an option.
Yeah.
Spielman Sr., I don't know what his dad's name was, but he did not have the option to go to Michigan. He was going to Ohio State no matter what.
I mean, that's a little bit different, man. I mean, when you're a top tier recruit, and again, I don't know the numbers behind Herbstreit's son.
And fishing, I'll go up to Michigan and fish all you want. I'll go swim in those lakes. Torch Lake, take me there.
I'll take some UP any day of the week, man. It's beautiful.
For sure.
Oh yeah. But no, I
think the last thing we had to get into was Ryan Day's contract, making him the second highest paid coach in college football, right behind Kirby Smart. $12.5 million, 7 years. That takes him through 2031. Before that, he was earning just under 10 million or right at 10 million. And he was like sixth highest paid coach. What do you think about that?
His record speaks for itself. What is he, like 60-8 or something, whatever the record is? Something ridiculous.
Roger.
70 and 10.
Yeah, like
trashing Ohio State now. Yeah. He's got the best record in active coaches and the third best in all of coaching, in the history of coaching.
He's got his national championship. He has.
I agree with Doug here. I'm back off of Ryan Day because this is important. It seems like a lack of respect towards his father, if you ask me. No one did though. We did ask you. We actually said, "What do you think about this in the locker room?"
It's not lack of respect.
Doug, you're the only member of the locker room right now, so you get to say whatever the hell you want.
It's actually the father being right and letting the son decide his own path in life.
There are times when you put your foot down, and that's one of those times.
There's times when you let your kids grow up and be their own person.
Hey, everything else they can do.
It's
everything
not like Herb Street's son needs a scholarship.
No. And I think it was just a PR stunt by Michigan, too, because he's never going to play there. Never. It was just a slap in the face PR stunt, and his son fell
also, 18-year-old kids are notorious contrarians, right? And that's why you got to be careful, bro, because you keep telling your kids, don't do this, don't do this. You're talking to 9 and 5-year-olds. Wait till they're 18 and 14, and they're going to do literally the opposite of whatever you say. So careful what you wish for.
He's going to find out. He's going to find out soon.
Yeah.
They won't do that. They won't be doing that.
That's why I keep telling my kids go to UW.
You won't even know. You're going to come home from work
so they go to Ohio State.
You won't even know. You're going to come home from work and your doctor's going to be like, "Oh, look where I got accepted. By the way, I'm going. See you later."
Nope.
Buddy.
How are you going to get there in my car? You're not.
You instilled a strong work ethic. She'll work over the summer.
That may be true. She'll find a way. If she's like me, she'll find a way.
I'll come and pick her up and give her a ride. Don't worry.
Get the hell out of here. Don't let him over the border.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, I mean, we got into Ryan Day's contract. He well deserved. I don't think even if he loses to Michigan next year, he's even close to on the hot seat.
No.
Ryan Day is one of a select few that has a national title. Is there only three active coaches with a national
There's only
title?
3 active coaches in college football with championships. Kirby and Dabo.
Wow.
Day. Yep.
It's just a new generation of coaches that all of a sudden sprung up.
Well, we've said this over the last 17 years, Alabama's won 6, right? So they've gobbled up quite a bit of that. And you've seen a lot of, Clemson hasn't had that turnover. That's where they've gotten the 2. And Georgia has smart with the 2. And you see a speckling here, a speckling there. But
and the playoffs been mostly the same teams, if you actually think about it. Before this one, it's been relatively the same 3 or 4, and then one added in here or there.
A lot of
who's the next coach to get one? That doesn't have one.
Sark.
Sorry, that would be my bet.
Actually, you know what?
I
kind of want to say Franklin, but Franklin's the guy who's down 5 on the 6-yard line and will kick a field goal and decide it's better to go for 2. So it's hard to pick him.
Yeah.
And it can't be Cristobal because he doesn't know how to take a knee.
Lanning's the other one that I would say.
Lanning,
it's a good
because
shot.
they're going to be a problem moving forward for everybody.
I'll tell you what, my sleeper would be DeBoer, and the reason why I say it is he got Grubb back, and up here at UW, everyone kind of knew it was Grubb. It was Penix, right? And they had a really good team, and everything was playing well. Grubb's play calling was outstanding,
and he's always had Grubb. Always.
Except last year when he went to the Seattle Seahawks for 1 year. He didn't have Grubb last year. Well, Seahawks fired him. He just signed back with Alabama.
I'm surprised Grubb didn't get a head coaching job, to be honest with you.
Again, he was a late cycle guy. You got to realize Michigan, Washington played in a national title, so all those jobs weren't available. So I think he wanted.
No, I mean this year.
He got fired by the Seahawks, man. His reputation was down, and same with DeBoer. So they're like, let's team together again.
Let's marry up again.
And DeBoer's going to need a big year this year because Alabama.
Absolutely.
They missed the playoffs, man. They have their pitchforks and torches ready to go, man.
Alabama's not like these other programs that are going to give you 3-4 years.
No.
He loses 3 games this year and misses the playoffs. He's gone. They won't the day after the season. Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Oh yeah.
All right, boys. One last thing. Since we got Mike Germanese on here, tell us anything that you know about this investigation. These 6 level 1 violations, man.
Nothing.
You're staying off this subject now. This used to be
over the weekend.
This used to be your baby boy.
I'm not saying nothing. I'm gonna let the situation play out.
Yeah, he knows. He knows it's coming. That hammer's coming for you, Mike.
We're gonna find out. It might be your daughter might be at Michigan. Your daughter might be graduating from Michigan by the time we do, but we're gonna find out eventually.
Now you got another one. She's not going to Michigan. In fact, I will get her on here to say, hell no. Maybe not in those words, but
kids are cute at 9. 18's a whole different animal, man.
When they hate you, you can't really negotiate with them.
Yeah.
She knows. She went to her first Ohio State game this year. It was a top 10 matchup, Indiana, and she watched nothing but the touchdowns, Brutus, and the cheerleaders.
That's fine. There was not much to watch in that game.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, we got a little comment about the Phoenix, so let's bring it on. The Phoenix won Washington a couple games last season. He doesn't have another Phoenix at Alabama, as far as I know.
I am going off the top of my head, but I believe they have a redshirt freshman. I think his name's Simpson. He's supposed to be pretty phenomenal. Milroe, I can tell you right now, listen to the scouts and the Senior Bowl and everything NFL related. Milroe is just getting obliterated. So he was not the answer down in Bama.
Nope.
I think they got a good redshirt.
I can't believe they even kept him this year.
And for the record, I know it's Penix, but
yeah, it's a running
Eric
joke.
Rose, he's a new one. If we would beat Georgia, he would have 2. Yes. If we would have beat Georgia, absolutely. And then we would have been the highest paid coach. until we can win another one, then he'll most likely stay behind.
It's only 700,000. Kirby's at
Yeah.
13.2. It's not that far
Yeah.
off. And
Okay, here's a quick
Kirby's
question.
won back to back. I mean, Kirby has earned his money.
For sure.
Do you
But
think
here's a good point. We probably should have been able to beat Georgia that year. Marvin Harrison doesn't go down, and the coaching, the play calling in that game was phenomenal.
Do you ever think
Minus-
an NFL team comes calling for Day?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. But he's not even gonna approach it for the next 2 years. Till his son
That's-
graduates from high school, there might be a possibility.
It all depends on what he wants. And again, he spent 4 years in the NFL. I think he spent 3 in Philly with Chip Kelly, and he spent 1 year in San Francisco with Chip Kelly. So he's only spent 4 years in the NFL by and large. He does have that experience. But again, it's going to come down to, I think if you're the head coach at Ohio State and you've got that pressure off you and you're winning at a high level and you're getting paid this, it's got to be really tough to give up that job.
Yeah. Not only that, but some guys are just like the leaders of young men. Like they want to have that impact on the life of young men, growing them into men. And I think that's where a college head coach might get more job satisfaction out of being a college coach rather than an NFL coach. Because when it gets to the NFL, it's just business, right?
Straight business.
Everything's transactional. I know college football is leading more towards that. Like no one's a good recruiter anymore, right, Mike?
No one's a good recruiter anymore.
Like
Michigan-
it doesn't matter. Are you a good recruiter? Yeah, I gave him more
Michigan
money.
proves you don't have to be a good recruiter.
Yeah, they just landed some stud.
But it's the
offensive
same in the
tackle.
NFL.
And-
When free agency starts, it's going to be like, okay, am I chasing a big contract or am I going to take a little bit less to go to a playoff caliber team? And you see this all the time with free agency. You saw with Saquon Barkley, all the reports coming out, he turned down 2 higher offers to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, and look where they're at today. I say that in comparison to college football is you're going to see guys signing massive NIL deals. Are they signing it for the money? Or are you going to see guys take a little bit less, Carnell Tate, others, to stay with winning programs? So it is. You basically an NFL style system right now in college football.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and Doug's back. Doug, if you guys don't know, the locker room, for those of you that are new, Eric and who are some of the other guys? Billy Tuesday and Roger. The more you comment in the locker room, the more meaningful conversations we get. You get your black stripe removed. So far, Doug has been the only one to get his black stripe removed, and he is a official member of the locker room. And then we'll get you some merchandise starting next season, sometime after the spring game. I'm going to get those ordered, but Doug's getting the first hat. Eric, come on back some more. And Roger, come on back, be part of this show. And Billy Tuesday, thanks for joining us too, man. Come on back and earn that black stripe removal. All right. Also follow us. You know, Doug does follow us, I think, on social media too. So follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe if you're on YouTube. And where else are we? I think that's it. I'm on Reddit too, but that doesn't really matter. So let's get back into this. I think that's the show, boys. I mean, an hour, 20-minute show on a Thursday night, and we have all these guys in the locker room joining us. This is awesome.
Big win for Ohio State basketball today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, against
Down
Maryland.
17 points against Maryland. Come back.
Number 18 in the nation.
It looked bad in the first half. It looked like it was going to be a blowout in the first half.
And they came together. Bruce Thorne, dude, he carried the team to that win. Had a bank shot 3 at the end. It was incredible. I love it. They're a 9-loss team, and people are saying they may now be in the 9 seed, and it just goes to show you have a really tough schedule. This team could be dangerous in March.
Bring back Jim Tressel.
Hell no. He's happy at Youngstown. Keep him in Youngstown. I love.
Could he be the defensive coordinator? I don't think so. He's an offensive man.
I don't think
But what was it? His nephew that was mentioned, Mike Tressel.
Isn't he the president of Youngstown now?
Yeah, he's president of Youngstown State. Yes, he is.
Go Penguins.
Go Penguins.
That's where my wife's
That's
from,
right.
the beautiful Youngstown, Ohio.
I watched
the beautiful
Coach Tressel at
metropolis of
Stambaugh
Youngstown.
Stadium, man. Spent a lot of childhood up there.
Billy Tuesday's already in bed. Stuff like this, Doug. He does have a younger son too, besides RJ. he said something about doing something special at Ohio State for the next 5 to 7 years. Yeah, but that could change. You know, you get a $12 million contract that turns into a $25 million contract in the NFL. Money talks sometimes.
Sure does.
And it
Thanks for
depends on
spending the evening with us, Doug. I appreciate it.
it depends too on it. Do you get sick of working all year where you can take 3-4 months and just spend it with family? Even though they're probably working some way, but it's a lot better than having to travel and recruit and do all that other nonsense.
He was at the basketball game tonight. It was nice to see. So maybe he got a night off.
Speaking of having a night off, I think our night is ending right now. So thank you all, Buckeye backers, for joining us. Thanks, Mike Germanese. Go check him out on Mike Farrell Sports. Like I said, check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on the X, formerly known as Twitter, and join us in some conversation there. We got big things coming. Roger, thanks for joining us. Is Maurice Claret helping the team? Yeah, absolutely helped the team this year. He was instrumental in keeping those guys going. But we're signing off. Thanks for joining us. We are national champions. Mike Germanese, you get to hear that for another whole season, brother.
I just want to see you spell it.
I don't spell. That's what I don't do. We don't learn that in Ohio. National champion. That's one of those hard words too.
I've seen you guys.
I need a word doc for that. Yeah.
I need spell checker.
I got to bring up Grammarly for that one.
All right. Peace out, boys. God bless. Everyone have a great evening and a good weekend. The national champs, Ohio State, will be back with force next year. Peace out.